So like this thing, like way back 18 years ago, which by that I mean last week, we were doubling in volume every week. Now it feels like we're doubling in volume every like 4 to 6 days. Like it's
Wow.
this thing is a snowball rolling down the hill, and it's all I can do to hang on and at the same time get out of the way. Like just just let things happen, because I don't know what this is going to look like. And every time I think I've got a vision, we're going for it, and then I've got to stop and readjust because there's a better vision. There's a better thing that has to happen.
Welcome to Well Metaverse, the podcast where Jason Earls and Aaron Sorrells navigate the explosive growth in the metaverse. Buckle up, because we are in for a heck of a ride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jason, man,
Yes,
welcome back.
sir.
It is so good to see you again as we jump into these conversations. These have meant so much to me. I got to tell you, I just went through and edited our last conversation, and the highlight of the whole thing was the call that you got from your daughter.
Wow.
That was so moving and so incredible. I just loved listening back to it, and what a blessing, what a wonderful opportunity for the folks that are watching and listening to this, to just get an inside scoop into who you are and what kind of dad you are. So thanks again for including us in that super personal moment.
Bro, that's I know that's what I'm called to do, man. And I don't know about everybody watching, but I am a professed Christian, and so Christianity has this idea of this concept called disciple making. And it's not that like everybody's like one person's supposed to be super smarter than the next person. That's not it. It's like it's all about, man, how we're allowing God and his redemptive grace. In other words, basically God giving some jacked up people like me a second chance. And
I hear
so
you. Amen, brother. Preach.
absolutely. And what that looks like applied to everyday life. So, man, I'm not the father who knows everything, but as we see with our leader Jesus, he just got 12 jacked up dudes who
Yeah.
weren't the smartest knives in the drawer and just walked with them. And then he
Yeah.
was like, "Yo,
Yeah.
y'all go do the same thing. Like, get some people or whoever's around you, and you just walk with them.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not about being on stage preaching to people. It's like, yo,
Right.
I really want to. The greatest impact is when I'm opening up my life, like, and that's what we're doing. Just talking about
Yeah.
our journey in the metaverse, through the
Yeah.
metaverse,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and how it impacts us, man. So
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I mean that's it. That's what was so special about that. There was nothing manipulative about that. There was nothing staged about that. That was just a genuine conversation. And like you said, walking with people, like opening ourselves up to where people can engage us, and like you were talking about last week, that people can love us for us because we're
yeah,
just being us. That's
absolutely,
cool,
bro.
man. I'm excited to chat today. Whew, it's been a week, man.
Bro,
It
how you
is.
doing, dude? I wanted to call you yesterday. Like, I need to check up on my dude, man.
Man, each week feels like about 6 months. Like I saw somebody in the metaverse the other day, and I was like, man, it feels like forever since I've seen you. And he's like, dude, I saw you yesterday. And yeah, yeah, it's like dog years over here. Like,
Oh, that's so funny,
but
man.
but yeah, I mean, a lot has happened this week. On Wednesday of last week, right before we talked, we became featured in the Plaza, which meant that we're kind of one of the primary places that they're funneling people to, and
Yeah,
that kicked up some traffic, man.
right.
We had over 10,000 first-time visitors come through Gutties this week, and in fact, at the time that I wrote up my notes for today, which
Uh-huh.
was a couple days ago, we were at 18,500 people total. This morning, I just took a look. We're at 22,000. So
Wow.
22,000 people have come through Gutties and experienced it. It's amazing. Sorry to interrupt, guys, but a couple weeks in, the owners of Gutties and I decided to part ways. Jason and I talked through that decision and the process involved in episodes 3 and 4. But until then, just know that the comedy club in Horizon Worlds, also known as the Metaverse, that we are referring to is known as the Soapstone Comedy Club. All one word, Soapstone Comedy Club. So if you're looking for us, that's how you will find us. Thanks. Now back to the podcast. We were actually, at the time that I wrote this, we were at 1,500 people that actually clicked like and engaged with the world. That's now up to like 17.5 or something like that. And at the time that I wrote this, we were all the way up to 275 members of the Team Gutties Facebook group. And we are now well over 450. So this thing, like way back 18 years ago, which by that I mean last week, we were doubling in volume every week. Now it feels like we're doubling in volume every like 4 to 6 days. Like it's
Wow.
this thing is a snowball rolling down the hill, and it's all I can do to hang on and at the same time get out of the way. Like just just let things happen, because I don't know what this is going to look like. And every time I think I've got a vision, we're going for it, and then I've got to stop and readjust because there's a better vision, there's a better thing that has to happen. So
Yeah.
actually, maybe you can chime in on that, having flexibility around vision. What are your thoughts there?
Dude, it's so there's this saying uh that says, now unto him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond what we can ask or think. And this idea that Paul was talking about, just the idea, man, when not just a person who has this particular relationship with God, but I think sometimes when God's doing just some amazing thing with human beings, man, he does way more than you can imagine, than you can comprehend. And the reality is, that some of us get to experience that. I
Mm-hmm.
think all of us should, but some of us
Mm-hmm.
just are just fortunate and by God's grace enough to experience that. And that should be normal, I believe. I really
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
that should be the norm. We should be
yeah.
consistently enamored with like, whoa, snap, what in the world do I do now?
Yeah, right, right. Man, that's a wonderful, horrible feeling.
Like somebody, one of my mentors, he's a former engineer, retired, and he would say, man, he would be in these meetings, and people would always say, man, that's a great problem to have. He was like, okay, but who's gonna solve it? Like,
Right, right. A problem's a problem.
a
Yeah.
problem is a problem. It still needs to be solved.
Yeah, yeah.
But the same way that you depend on for the extraordinary to happen, uh, extraordinary vision or extraordinary reality takes extraordinary management.
Yeah, yeah.
And man, but that still doesn't solve the problem.
Right, right, right.
So but the question becomes, man, how do you eat an elephant?
Yeah,
You know, one bite at a time. You manage
right,
what you
right.
can,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and that's what you like. So it but then there's this, what I one of my favorite spaces to move in is creative strategy. I love
Mm,
thinking creatively and strategizing how to make different things work. That's one of my favorite things to do.
yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
It-
That's a
yeah,
gift.
yeah. So immediately when it comes to strategic management or creative strategic management of the gutties in the metaverse, man, like as I've been watching in the Facebook room, there's one proverb. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of you.
No, 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 man, go.
Uh, man, there's a. I was watching one thing in the chat, and as Team Gutties is developing, which is awesome, there needs to be a managing of the managers,
Yeah, yeah.
a training of the team, It's
Yeah.
kind of like, ooh, I'm so sorry. This dude's name is leaving me right now. The guy who owns the Ritz Carlton. Anyway,
Yeah.
if I got some of his quotes in my computer, but I'm not gonna waste your time. The
Yeah.
manager the guy who owns the Ritz Carlton, he says this: he never hires anybody without him meeting them.
Yeah.
In other
Yeah.
words, now he doesn't have time to necessarily meet every single person, but he does the orientation.
Yeah.
Some of the first orientation meetings he actually leads up himself. And
Yeah.
the whole idea is he wants everyone who works for the Ritz Carlton to get his thinking, to get his mindset.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as I'm looking at the metaverse and the new team developing, there's a great danger that I saw with our beloved group called the
Yeah.
CCA.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and so here's what happened with the Christian Comedy Association. It started off with a bunch of professional comedians, working professionals, let me say that. That's
Hmm.
what this group started. And then as the group got established, other younger people, younger comedians, people who desired were fans of comedy started coming to the group. And then what happened, this large group of effective comedians now has a plethora of individuals within the organization, but not everyone were professional comedians.
Yeah.
A lot of them were hobbyist comedians, which and that's no knock on anybody. So don't take that as a if you're listening, don't take that as a negative thing.
No,
But then what
you're not
happened?
saying lesser or greater. You're just
Right,
saying different. Yeah,
right,
because it is different.
right. And so what happens then? The organization, the culture of the organization becomes that more of the majority. So if the majority are not as professional, then that's what the greatest context is going to be. I got to sneeze. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Yeah, that's not a COVID sneeze, everybody. So, so, so what I'm seeing with the metaverse group is you've got a lot of what I'll call culture setters,
Yeah.
which they want to make sure that Gutties remains true to the brand. Excuse me.
Bless you again.
There's a lot of dust in my creative space here. Um, so they want to make sure that the Gutties brand remains consistent and is protected. But in the midst of it, it's almost as if the joy, or it's like the little kid who never had social status getting a safety patrol vest.
Yeah.
And so instead of the system being, or the school being one of safety, now it's the safety patrol becomes this I want privilege. So now I'm
Yeah.
waving privilege in your face.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's necessarily happening. I just see that potential danger.
So I'll say that's happening. That
Yeah,
has happened. 100%. Especially like so so this is, with this kind of explosive growth, um, I'm I'm constantly finding myself choosing between the lesser of two evils.
yeah,
Because like to sum it up, like you either give people control or you don't. And if you don't,
hey,
sorry about
hey.
that. That means it's time to get ready for our podcast that we started a little bit early. So the uh, the thing is, you either have people in control of the room or you don't. And if you
Right,
don't, things run off the rails. And if you do, some of the people that do have control will abuse it flat
right.
out. So it's been this balancing act of which negative do I want? What price do I want to pay? And
That's correct.
initially because again, like 10,000 new people in a week when you can only have 22 people in a room, and you've got rooms, multiple rooms running 24 hours a day. Like, the number of moderators that I need is quite literally hundreds and hundreds of moderators. Well, in days, we don't have the systems in place. We don't know what they're supposed to do. So to get hundreds of people on board and train them up in days, like, it's an impossible task, and that's
Yeah,
okay. That's
absolutely.
okay. It's okay for some of these things to fall short. It's okay for things to blow up, and see, okay, why did this blow up? And so now we can craft. Now, I'm really excited because last night we had our first team meeting. Because, see, what we did is at first we opened it up to the Team Gutties group, and we put a passcode out there so that people could access the controls. Well,
Right.
immediately, people started, like, literally running throughout all of Horizon Worlds, shouting the passcodes from the rooftops. Like immediately, like, I actually was in a room, and somebody didn't know I was in there, but it was this guy that may have not gotten a lot of female attention throughout his life, just based on
Yeah.
conversations that he and I had. And two little female avatars walked up, and they're like, hey, give me the code. This man cracked in about a tenth of a second. He's like, here it is. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, just because a couple of cartoon girls come up and blink their eyes at you, hold strong a bit.
You know what
But
it reminds me of, man? What about the funniest proverbs to me? And I would say at one point it was confused. It's Proverbs 30:22.
uh-huh.
And I'll give you verse 21 first. Verse 21 says, under three things the earth trembles, and under four it cannot bear. So under these three things,
Man.
the earth trembles, and under this four it cannot bear. The first one out the gate that makes the earth tremble is a servant who becomes king.
Okay.
So in other words, now, of course, I don't know if y'all know, I'm a black man. I'm like, wait a minute, Lord. Like,
If somebody's listened to this podcast for this long, or watched the video cast and hasn't picked that up, by the way, I'm a white guy too, so
listen, so the idea, like, so I'm like, man, what? So if at one point I came from a family of servants, the earth can't stand if I become a king. It's
Mm.
like that's not what they're saying. If a servant becomes a leader without changing his uh, mindset, the way that he thinks, his behavior pattern, if he doesn't shift his thinking and he automatically takes a servant mindset, become a leader, then the earth
Ooh,
trembles.
yeah, that
So
man.
if you are a social peon and become a Gutties leader, the metaverse can't. The metaverse trembles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I think how do you? I think in a in a metaverse world where certain things can't be managed in the real world, I think you got to put that out there though. Like, hey man, the earth trembles when a servant becomes king. Our desire is, if you've never been a leader in a social organization, a leader, like, you're in great danger of ruining this if
Okay.
you do this. So here are
So
habits of a
so
king.
I so I actually I thought you were saying something different than I think you're saying now.
What do you think I'm saying?
Um, I thought you were saying that the earth trembles, like in a very, like, good and positive, like when a servant becomes a leader, it's a very good and positive thing, and it'll send waves through. But it sounds like you're saying the earth trembles in the sense that danger, bad things are happening when
Absolutely.
okay, all right, I'm with you now. Again, I thought you were,
Absolutely, bro.
because me myself, like, my leadership style is very much servant leadership. I try to, in a leadership position, I want to be there to give opportunity to share, to share power, to share
Right.
proceeds and benefits, and serve the people around me. But I hear what you're saying now, that there's risk, there's danger, that things could fall apart.
Yeah, and this is not, again, this is not talking about servant leadership. I think every king or every great leader should be a servant leader. Uh, but but in terms of the the lower of the social totem pole being promoted to the top of the social totem pole without any shift of management skills, people
Right.
skills, and ability, there's going to be some stuff wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And there is, and
yeah,
there is,
it
and
always is. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
this happens in the church world, in
yeah.
business world, in metaverse world.
Yep, 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 yep. Now, I mean, fortunately, like the things that I've been looking for, because again, like with the pace of growth here, it's like, I mean, the time of this conversation, like the world might be burning down in the metaverse.
Yeah,
Like the pace that things are going is truly unmanageable, and that's
that's
okay that it's
amazing, man.
unmanageable, but it's unmanageable. So what I've been looking for first when I get people involved is engagement. you know because the other things, the systems, the leadership skills, that, like, we can build those in, and I can't expect, I mean, John Maxwell isn't knocking on the door right now saying, hey, I want to dedicate 120 hours a week towards building this, like so the folks that are engaging, that's the first thing that I look for, and then the second thing is the heart. When I see somebody that's like, man, I want to be involved. I like this. Then that's what's kind of queuing it up. And I mean, here's the thing: like, this group of people is the most diverse group of people, not only that I've ever worked with, but that I've ever heard of assembled. You know,
Wow.
we have got people of all economic statuses. We've got people of different races involved. We've got people of different genders. We've got people involved that are transgender. And
Mm,
I didn't see this happening, but I put some simple rules up there.
yeah.
The simple rules of Gutties. You know, no racial jokes and no homophobic jokes. Like those are the kind of two. But what has happened there is the people that have been beaten down and oppressed because of those types of jokes are engaging at a level that I never thought possible. And you know what? It's wonderful. It's
That
wonderful.
dude, that sounds very familiar of my favorite, one of my favorite, well, my favorite book that I have on my shelf.
Yeah.
In terms of, man, just the downtrodden, those who have been
Oh,
beat up
oh,
throughout the place.
that book, that book. I'm waiting for you to drop the title of your new book or
Yeah,
something, but no, you're talking about that book, yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna tell you what's interesting, man, is like, and let's go back to what I was saying earlier in response to what you about my daughter calling and just this idea of discipleship. One of the key principles of those who you really spend time with is 2 Timothy 2:2. Uh the things that you've heard from me, entrust those to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. So you look around and you'll see, man, who's faithful? Who
Yeah,
are the folks
yeah,
who's showing up consistently?
yeah,
And then those who are faithful, those are the ones that you begin to entrust this stuff to.
yeah, yeah.
Which made me think, man, like, dude, what if this is totally crazy, dude. So here's another outlandish, crazy Jason Earls idea.
All right.
What if through this, as great of a servant leader that you are with your MBA experience, what if you began to create the Gutty School of Leadership?
Yeah.
as a result of
Oh,
people coming in, like, man, come, like, okay, man, we got this leadership training where we actually train you in just in leadership. You get a gutty certificate of the School of Leadership. Not only do we have a school of comedy, but we got a school of leadership and management. And so, I mean, that can be just a small certificate that you take people through. And then,
man, man, that's that's it. I mean, like I know last week I walked away with a to-do list, and it was only a couple bullet items long. It was to start getting videos out on the culture of gutties. And I accomplished it this week. You know, I got a good video out. I've got some raw footage,
dude, you are
and
crushing it, man. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're crushing it, bro.
yeah, and now this week I'm like, man, all right, I got to build a gutty school of leadership. All right, but
Yeah,
I'll tell
dude.
you what. You know, also we were talking about especially in engaging you and how you're going to get plugged in. That's I think that's it. Like the Gutty School of Leadership, I
Yeah.
think that is a thing that comes, that is very very integrated into this podcast. And having us come in and do some stuff and all that. So we're gonna. I'm not going to put a 1 week deadline on this,
Like I
but
said, dude, if you pull this off in 1 week, I'm like, snap. Dude, I gotta tell
yeah.
you, man, I've been thinking about you a lot since we've started this, and I'm like, man, I need to get Aaron in some of the stuff I'm doing over here, man. Just some of my
Yeah,
stuff, like,
it's
cause you crushing it, bro.
well, you know, it's interesting. My wife and I were talking about motivation the other day,
Yeah.
and I think that people have motivation backwards. People
Mm,
look at someone who is motivated, and they feel like that is something that they decided to do. Now, there's sometimes where people have to push through on something when they're not motivated, and that's different, and
yeah.
that's an important skill. But people talk, especially like if you go back into like maybe 20 years ago, the success speakers there, it was like, yeah, get motivated and do it,
Right.
and it's like, man, that's just not how it works. The way it
You
works is you discover something that unlocks that motivation within you. You discover something that you can engage with and go after. And I mean, you know, for a season, be willing to burn the candle at both ends and throw everything you got into it. That's motivation. And that's what I've discovered with this. It's not it's you mentioned MBA education. I've done some entrepreneurial stuff. I've done some executive level roles and stuff like that. This doesn't have anything to do with that. This has to do with just this fire that I didn't start inside, but I'm trying to harness
yeah.
on. I'm just all in about creating this place and helping the people. So that's wild, man. And I take that as a huge compliment, by the way. The stuff you got going on and the way that you engage and the projects that you take on, like to hear you say, man, I want you on this team, like that means a lot to me. And especially because of the season I went through as the unemployed alcoholic, where,
Yeah.
man, I applied to stock shelves and they wouldn't call me back. You know, I just everything, like it was crazy. I tried to drive for Uber and they're like, nah, we're good. I'm like, what? No, I've met an Uber driver or two. I
They
think I
wouldn't let
could
me
do
greet
that.
a Walmart. Like,
Right,
man.
right. Like it's and nothing against Uber drivers, nothing against Walmart greeters, but
Right.
these are things that I felt like I should be able to do, and it didn't work out. So to get into this spot and to find my groove, to find my rhythm, and to have respected people like yourself look at me and say, man, that's desirable. The skill sets that you're showing, the heart that you're showing, the passion that you're showing, that's a desirable thing. That feels good, man. Thanks for that.
Hey, man. But and what's amazing is like you're not trying to do it. You're just being yourself. and
That's true.
and that's what
Kind of
we
like
got to
a
be,
guy that
man.
I know that was on his phone call with his daughter. It's
Absolutely,
just us being us.
absolutely. And that authenticity, man, of being yourself is what really impacts people and sets up you to impact others and others to be drawn
Wow.
to you, man. You know, like man,
Wow.
the lion doesn't wake up every morning like, shucks, man, I gotta get out here and roar today. Ah,
Right.
okay, roar. No, like he
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
think to that. The bird doesn't think to like, man, shoot, I don't feel like flying today. Neither do I feel like chirping. It's just an automatic authenticity of them being who God created them to be. And that's how
Yeah.
we gotta be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So, man, well, this was good as always, man. This. Oh, by the way, we should probably talk about this. And actually, this isn't like a big reveal because by the time this gets published, that people will have already seen this name. But that name that I threw out to you earlier in the week, well, metaversed. What do you think about that?
Dude, I love it, bro. Oh my goodness. It's so good.
Well, I
Yeah,
got I
it's
got a
so good.
logo. A good friend of mine is working on a logo for us right now.
Right.
It's going to be pretty tight. It's going to be cool. It's a face with the headset on, and then it
Yeah.
says "Well Metaversed,"
Oh,
and
that's great.
yeah, and then the play off words, well versed is there, and then meta is kind of a little bit different. So of course it's a play off well versed, and it's well metaverse. So that's a big surprise, everybody that's listened to multiple episodes and probably heard that name multiple times already. This is where it happened. This is where it was decided on. So
So cool, man. So
yeah,
cool. Well, man,
yeah.
this has been so good, man. I appreciate you inviting me in, brother, and
All
allowing me to be
right.
part of this world.
Oh, you add so much value. It's so incredible. I know you. Speaking of adding value, I know you've got an appointment
Yes,
to
sir.
pour into some people and help some people. So I appreciate you. I will talk to you next Friday, my friend. If not before, any time we can connect up, my friend. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure. We will be back next week with a brand new episode, and you can always find us at jasonearls.com, theunemployedalcoholic.com, or at the Soapstone Comedy Club in Horizon Worlds.